Did you know there are over 9,000 individual cities, states, counties, and boroughs collecting sales tax throughout the United States? Did you know that small business, according to the SBA, provided over 61% of new job growth in the United States in the last 17 years? Were you aware that small business provides 48% of the gross domestic product in the United States? Now, what do you think the definition of small business is? Well, you know, there is the definition that is given to Congress, the group of fools that we have representing us in the Washington, D.C. area. That definition comes to them from a national CPA firm that has no clue what small business is. According to one of the national firms, small business is defined as a company with less than $500 million in sales in a year. Well, I'm here to tell you, Congress, I'm here to tell you folks that small business is not a company with $500 million in sales. A small business is a company with one employee, 2, 5, 10 people, no full-time bookkeepers. All of our employees are out there working, selling, building, developing, servicing, but we don't have in-house accounting staffs and sales tax compliance staffs. Now, why, you may wonder, are you so upset about this? Because our group of elected officials in Washington seems to be so busy pointing fingers at each other and representing their own individual party rather than the interests of the United States. We are looking at a collapse of small business in the next year without an action by our elected officials. Please let me explain. My name is Bob Jennings. I'm a CPA. I am a 40-year experienced small business CPA. I also am president of TaxSpeaker, a national continuing education company educating small business CPAs throughout the United States. We don't deal with $500 million. We deal with $300,000 in sales. We deal with companies with 30 employees, 8 employees, and we are the real hands-on answer to what is going on with this debacle that has just recently occurred. Please let me give you a little background. For over 30 years in America, if you were a small business and you sold stuff across a state line, you had to register, collect, and remit sales tax to that state following a simple rule known as the physical nexus rule. That rule said, look, if you were selling stuff in our state out of your own store operating in our state, or a warehouse operating in our state, or a physical salesperson operating in our state, you had to collect sales tax in our state or our city and remit it to us. You know what? That was fair. That was reasonable. But here is what has occurred. As a result of pressure over internet sales on the big box stores, the United States Supreme Court changed that rule on June 21st of 2018 in a court case known as the Wayfair case. Now, what the Wayfair case did was it threw out the old physical nexus rule, said, no, that isn't how you're going to collect, remit, and determine your sales tax, and it replaced it with what was called a reasonable attempt by the state of South Dakota to go after an internet-based sales company known as Wayfair. Now, the standard that was set in that Wayfair case said, if the state of South Dakota chose a reasonable level of sales, $100,000 of sales, or 200 transactions in a year in that state, then it was reasonable for South Dakota to collect sales tax. I understand the individual cities, counties, and boroughs' requirements to collect sales tax. What I don't understand is the failure of our elected officials in Congress to react to Wayfair to protect the extreme small business. I want you to realize how ridiculous this is. If I am a small business and I sell 230 items in your state at $10 a pop, that is $2,300 worth of sales in your state. Under the Wayfair rule, I have to register in the state of South Dakota. I have to determine the individual rules in South Dakota, what's taxable, what's not taxable, how much to collect, how to remit. For $2,300 in sales, I got to know the individual rules on every single sales tax item in the state of South Dakota. Now, what's ridiculous, let's go back to my original statement. 9,000 taxing locations in the United States. I'm a small business. I sell into each one of these states. Are you telling me that as a small business with 4 employees who actually do the products, make the products, sell the services, I got to hire a full-time sales tax department to determine what the individual rates are in every state. Are you aware that we now have over 35 states that have passed their own new sales tax rule? I am a CPA with 40 years experience. I can't tell you whether the state that you're selling stuff over the internet to taxes products, or does it tax services, or does it tax stuff that I deliver over the internet? Does it tax cloud-based hosting? No one knows that answer, yet the individual states are passing rules that are utilizing different levels of transactions. They're not using 100 grand. Some of them are, some of them aren't. They're not using 200 transactions. Some are, some aren't. Some states are passing retroactive rules that are saying, well, these rules have applied since the beginning of time. I'm a small business. We have small business providing half of our economy, 2/3 of the jobs in America, yet apparently because our elected lizards in Washington have been unable to do anything but indict each other and accuse each other, we have a collapse in front of us. Let me tell you what's going on. We are today being forced to try to figure out what is the sales tax rule, not only in your city, in your county, in your borough, but in your state. I have to determine what's taxable in 9,000 different transactions, what the rate is, how to register, how to collect, how to pay. I'm going to have to hire a staff of 30 people just to keep up with these stinking rules because of the failure of these losers we have in Washington to act. Today, now, small business, you need to contact your elected members of Congress, whether they're in the House of Representatives or the United States Senate, whether they're a Republican lizard or a Democrat lizard, and tell them we need a small business exemption. Were you aware in September that a new rule was proposed by a Republican stating, hey, a $10 million threshold would be enough? Shot down by the Democrats. Followed in December by a rule proposed that almost mirrored the September rule. In December of 2018, we have a group of Democrats that propose a very similar rule, shot down by the Republicans. Here is what we need. I understand that every city and state needs to collect a fair amount of sales tax. I understand it. I agree with it. What I don't understand is why we have to shut down the very small businesses that are providing half of the economy, 2/3 of the jobs, to hire a stinking sales tax department or not to be in compliance with 9,000 different rules. It is impossible for a small business to comply with these rules or shut down. That is their option. You either are going to comply by shutting down because you can't comply, or you're going to operate under the radar. These fools we got in Washington do not realize we need a small business threshold to comply. The big boxes are going after the internet sales, and small businesses the ones eating the price. Establish a $10 million threshold of sales and make no state allowing them to go retroactively to collect the sales tax. Why? Because to do so will shut down the very small business that's providing the brunt of this economy, that's providing 2/3 of the jobs. I appeal to the president, I appeal to members of Congress, and most of all, I appeal to you watching this video. You need to contact your elected officials and tell them, you're destroying small business, which will destroy our country. Pass something giving us a small business exception. If there's any doubt, my name is Bob Jennings. I'm a CPA in Indiana. I am sick and tired of these people passing rules or failing to act upon the rules that will protect the very economy that runs this country. Contact your member of Congress today. Feel free to pass this YouTube video on to anyone you think should watch the video to understand. 9,000 taxing jurisdictions. There is no way I can figure out what I have to pay tax or remit sales tax on, whether it's products, services, cloud-based, 9,000 different rates and 9,000 different forms. We need a solution, Congress. Do your job. Thank you.